Very excited here in New York. It is all orange and blue skies for Knicks fans on this Monday morning. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. We're going to begin a new week, though, with that potential breakthrough in the Middle East as the United States and Iran say they have reached an agreement to end fighting and reopen the economically vital Strait of Hormuz. President Trump took to social media yesterday to announce that the deal is now complete and called for the removal of the U.S. naval blockade in the strait. He says this deal will bring peace and security to the whole region. The agreement, which is yet to be made public, is said to include a provision that Iran will never have nuclear weapons. That is according to Iranian media. This comes as President Trump left Washington earlier this morning on his way to France for the start of the G7 summit this week, with the war with Iran expected to take center stage as the president gets set to meet with other world leaders. We will have more on the G7 summit and this potential peace deal in just a moment when we check in with former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Joel Rubin. But we're going to begin this morning with all the latest from NBC News correspondent Alice Barr. She joins us from France ahead of the president's arrival at the G7 summit. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah, and we're happy to bring you the view here from Evian-les-Bains this morning, one that President Trump will soon be looking out on when he arrives here for G7 talks, now likely to be dominated by word of that peace deal with Iran. President Trump traveling to the G7 in France today to meet with top allies, just as he's announced a deal reached with Iran that he says will end the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and reopen the strait when it's signed on Friday, saying oil will flow. Mediator Pakistan's prime minister wrote that both sides agreed to immediately and permanently end the fighting on all fronts, including in Lebanon. While Iranian state media reports the deal has 14 points, including Iran reaffirming its commitment to not produce nuclear weapons, while billions of dollars in Iranian funds are unfrozen. Democrats comparing it to the Obama-era nuclear deal.
We're getting basically less than what we had under the JCPOA, which President Trump walked away from.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the U.S. has now proven it will use military force.
Obama, they begged Iran for a deal, and we bombed Iran.
Here in Geneva, businesses boarded up ahead of major anti-G7 protests, voicing frustration over the Middle East, the economy, and environmental protections. Thousands marched the streets on Sunday.
We have kids and grandkids, and so we are really concerned about what's going on.
At one point, setting a Tesla on fire. An hour away in lakeside Evian-les-Bains, France, an enormous security presence for the meetings where President Trump comes face to face with allies he's accused of not doing enough to help with Iran and antagonized through tariffs and trade. The president tackling tensions on the world stage straight from a very different arena where he celebrated his 80th birthday Sunday with an unprecedented UFC fight night on the White House South Lawn, part of America's 250th anniversary events as the nation faces a new era of global challenges. Iranian state media reports that after the deal is signed, there will be a 60-day window for final negotiations focused on Iran's nuclear program and on the remaining sanctions. Savannah, back to you.
Alice, though, walk us through the remaining stumbling blocks that are still going to pose challenges to long-term peace.
Yeah, so there's, of course, outstanding still what has always been the trickiest part, which is working out the details of Iran's nuclear program, what that is going to look like. And that is going to be sorted out during the 60-day window that's still ahead. There's all of that enriched uranium stockpile that Iran still has buried under, of course, debris from U.S. bombings. What's going to happen with that? And then there's the question of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who, according to sources to NBC News, is looking for a meeting with President Trump to talk about this deal that includes an end to the fighting in Lebanon, something that Israel has so far resisted. Savannah?
All right, Alice, tough office for you today out there. Hope you get to enjoy it a little bit. Thanks so much. Let's now bring in Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and the author of The Briefing Book on Substack. Joel, good morning. Thanks so much for being with us. So this agreement announced just hours before President Trump departed Washington to head there, where Alice was to head to France for the start of the G7 summit. Both sides, though, here are seeming to declare victory. So what do you make of what we know at this point about the agreement?
Well, honestly, Savannah, we know very little, and it still hasn't even been signed. Maybe on Friday it will be signed. And at least from press reporting, and most of it we're getting from the Iranian side, it looks like a pale shadow of the nuclear deal that President Obama negotiated with Iran over a decade ago. And what I mean by that is that that deal had very clear limits to Iran's nuclear program, constraints around its enrichment, dealt with the nuclear material. None of that is in this agreement. This agreement is solely about reopening the Straits of Hormuz and having the United States commit to a ceasefire. And then they'll have more negotiations about the nuclear program. And I got to tell you, it colored me skeptical that 60 days is enough time to negotiate this with Iran. This war has already been over 100 days, and we barely have even talked about the nuclear program in a diplomatic sense.
And another thing here, Joel, that we're certainly watching is Iran wanting a ceasefire in Lebanon to be part of any deal. Israel said it won't withdraw from the territory it holds there. I mean, what's that mean? Can the president move forward with an agreement without Israel being on board?
No, he can't. To be all straight on forward and honest on this one, from a practical perspective, the Israelis control their own security policy. And while it's important for the United States to weigh in, and we clearly can tell the Israelis our views on what they should and should not be doing in Lebanon, ultimately the Israelis need to make their own call. And this means that they should be included in any negotiation. Now, the good news is that the United States is fostering negotiations between Israel and Lebanon, and that could lead potentially to an agreement between the two governments. But the open question about Hezbollah remains on the table, and that means the Iranians have to talk about what they'll do with Hezbollah in that context. So a lot more to be done there. I don't think that it's realistic to expect the Lebanon war to just somehow magically be over because of this statement. Much more work needs to be done.
Let's talk now about the G7 summit. We just saw video a moment ago there of protesters there, obviously the president arriving. What are we expecting, especially with this news on the horizon, but also anything else that's going to be big takeaways from this?
Yeah, well, certainly this Iran agreement's going to close a bit of a chapter of what they were going to talk about at these meetings, and they'll discuss the fallout from it. But there are major issues on the global stage the United States has to deal with our allies and our friends at the G7. Even within the European context, for example, questions about Ukraine, there's still the tariffs lingering over the policy there. And of course, when it comes to Europe, the question about Greenland, where they're very nervous about the United States. And so there's a lot on the agenda. The big issue for President Trump is what kind of president does he want to be for the next 2.5 years on the global stage? His first year and a half, he's been very active and aggressive at taking on challenges and in criticizing our allies in many instances, those at the G7 included. And so does he want to continue on that? Or is he going to use this moment from the Iran agreement that he just got to try to pivot and build some cooperative relationships going forward? This is a very key meeting, and it will help us understand the foundation for the next 2.5 years.
Joel, what do you think could be considered a success broadly at the G7 summit for President Trump?
For President Trump to get some backing from these G7 countries for his Iran agreement would be a win. If he gets that, where they state that they are committed to supporting an agreement, that they are looking forward to working with other Middle Eastern allies on reopening the straits and getting the global economy moving, that would be a win for him. And that would show that he has been able to leverage the deal with Iran, or the agreement with Iran, into some broader global level of support. That's been lacking so far. He's really relied upon Pakistan and several other countries to negotiate. He needs to bring the Europeans in. If he does that, that would be a win for him.
All right. Joel Rubin, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Well, investigators are searching for answers after a deadly plane crash in Missouri. Authorities say a small aircraft carrying a group of skydivers went down shortly after takeoff yesterday, killing all 12 people on board. The skydiving company says it is cooperating fully with authorities as they work to determine the cause of the crash. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has more.
Tragedy in Missouri. The smoldering wreckage, remnants of a plane carrying skydivers that crashed moments after takeoff.
The plane took off, and then at that point, it went down.
The company Skydive KC, who operated the plane, tells NBC News all 12 people on board, 11 skydivers and 1 pilot, were killed, saying the private plane went down near Butler Memorial Airport, roughly an hour south of Kansas City. Smoke seen billowing out of the mangled metal pieces as troopers tried to spray down the crash site. Local reporter Doug Mauger capturing this video just minutes after the impact.
When you pulled up to the scene, what struck you?
Well, as a pilot, it was quite disturbing, but I did see that there was flames coming from the wreckage and they were starting to put water on it.
The incident now marking the state's deadliest aviation tragedy since 2004. The FAA sharing a Pacific Aerospace P-750 crashed while departing from Butler Memorial Airport in Missouri around 11:35 a.m. local time, adding the NTSB will lead the investigation. The local sheriff's office urging people to avoid the area as federal agencies begin the long search for answers for loved ones grieving an unthinkable loss.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
All right, well, the Midwest also saw another run of severe weather over the weekend. Thousands were left without power following several days of storms in south of Chicago. Central Illinois was also hit hard with powerful winds downing trees and damaging homes. And millions of Americans on both coasts were slammed with intense summertime heat. For more on all that and everything you should know as you get your week started, we're going to check in with meteorologist Rafael Miranda for your morning news now weather. Hey, Raf, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Yeah, another active week ahead. Starting out today with a limited area for severe weather across Texas and New Mexico, but the south could get soaked later on today into Tuesday. Some tropical moisture here along the Gulf Coast. We'll be watching this very closely as low pressure slowly meanders its way around here. Very heavy rain at times and flash flooding is a possibility. You can see these rainfall totals today through tomorrow, several inches of rain stretching all the way from Texas to Florida here, up to 8 inches possible in some spots. That could cause big travel issues. And look at the flood watches and warnings in effect already for Texas into Louisiana, again, for up to 8 inches of that tropical heavy soaking rain. Now, tomorrow, the severe threat moves to the Midwest here, Chicago, but still tornadoes not likely. Wednesday is the day we see that risk really bump up. For Chicago, St. Louis, we're dealing with 39 million at risk for severe storms, including tornadoes, which could be strong in some cases, hail and also damaging winds a possibility. Again, this is Wednesday. That's when things really kick into high gear. The heat already in high gear in the Northwest here. We have heat alerts in effect for 17 million. Now, Seattle will be sizzling today. They have a World Cup match. It's going to be 90 degrees. Temperatures trending about 15 to 20 degrees above average there in the Pacific Northwest. Hot for them for soccer today for the World Cup. Tomorrow, close to record heat continues out west. And we're staying warm right through the end of the week. Now, in the Northeast, a big cool down today, much more refreshing out there. We have that contrast in temperatures below average in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. A look at the picture for today, sunny and mild here in the Northeast and the Midwest. Again, watching that rain along the Gulf Coast. Hot out west. Heading through the rest of the week, by Wednesday, the mugginess returns here in the Northeast. You knew it would. And we stay very active in the Midwest. Again, watching out for travel delays in Chicago and up towards Detroit. Above average out west by the end of the week. We have a ticker tape parade here in New York City.
Sure do.
We also have storms in the forecast. Stormy, potentially hot and muggy Thursday. That should be interesting. Of course, people will be out enjoying it, no matter what the weather. But
no kidding.
It could be a little bit exciting in terms of the weather as well, not just the Knicks.
Spoken like a meteorologist who calls it exciting. I liked the part of the country where it just says sensational.
Sensational.
Yeah, look at that. All right, Rob, thank you. We'll see you in an hour. Well, severe weather concerns did threaten to derail a first-of-its-kind event at the White House, but in the end, this mixed martial arts competition went on as scheduled. As part of President Trump's 80th birthday celebration on Sunday, more than 4,000 spectators gathered on the South Lawn for a fight card hosted by the UFC. President Trump watched cage side with UFC President Dana White. Vice President J.D. Vance and several members of the president's cabinet were also there. We've got NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz joining us now with more on this. Hey, Megan, good morning. So we've been hearing about this for a while. President Trump actually announced plans for this event last summer. A bunch of things that have been announced and planned for this celebration of the country's 250th birthday coming up here. And then we've also been talking about it for a bit because it was quite a sight to see what was being built, with the structure for this, the construction just in front of the White House. We've been showing our viewers pictures of that for a couple weeks now. Can you give us some of the highlights from last night's event?
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, this event has been in the works for going back to last summer. So President Trump had watched this event, which was part of America's 250th anniversary that's being commemorated with a string of events happening later this summer as well. But as you mentioned, this also fell on President Trump's own birthday, his 80th birthday. So President Trump was there. He watched this event alongside thousands of other people, including high-profile administration officials, people like Vice President J.D. Vance, people like Secretary of State Marco Rubio, FBI Director Kash Patel, as well as VIPs, people like Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, as well, alongside active military members, too. So there were 14 fighters, including 8 Americans. And as you mentioned, in terms of some of the highlights here, it was really a lot of this was about the spectacle, the fact that this took place on the White House South Lawn in this massive structure that we have seen being built. It's 92 feet tall. It's called the Claw. So, and we've seen that, and you've shown it on the show as well to viewers. And it's really this massive structure and this massive production. And there's also a pretty hefty price tag here for the UFC. The UFC has previously said that this event would cost them more than $60 million, Savannah.
Megan, I do want to get to a couple other things out of Washington with you this morning. One is this law. Our viewers might kind of understand what have heard of this and what it may mean for them. It allows for the U.S. government to surveil foreigners who are abroad by collecting domestic communication information. Okay, it expired on Friday. Lawmakers left town without extending it. It's the first time actually that this law has lapsed since it was passed back in 2008. So break down what this means for intelligence gathering and where politicians stand on this and renewing it.
Yeah, so it's a controversial program because critics of the program have argued that it could ultimately sweep up information about Americans or communications with Americans in the surveillance of foreigners abroad. Now, Democrats had expressed a reluctance to extend FISA because of President Trump picking housing official Bill Pulte as the acting director of national intelligence to serve in that role when Tulsi Gabbard ultimately leaves. Now, President Trump since then has said that he's going to nominate Jay Clayton, who's the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, for the position permanently, but he's also going to have to go through that Senate confirmation process. And President Trump has still said that that Bill Pulte will serve as the acting director of national intelligence. So now we're also getting a twist from President Trump, where President Trump has now posted to Truth Social saying that he now wants an extension of FISA, if it goes forward, to be paired with the Save America Act. He wrote, "I'm against FISA if it doesn't come with the Save America Act full version." So the Save America Act would reshape how elections are operated. And President Trump as well has said that he would want this to include things like banning transgender women and girls from playing in women and girls sports. Now, in terms of what this means for the future of FISA right now in the short term, so FISA is operating on this year-long certification from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. That does not expire until next March. And so some legal experts are saying that they think that this program can continue operating until then without congressional approval. Savannah.
Megan, quick last one here for us. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, he, of course, once served as the Senate Majority Leader. He was hospitalized over the weekend. What do we know?
Yeah, so we actually don't know that much about this right now. So a spokesperson for the senator had said in a statement that the senator was admitted to the hospital on Sunday morning and that he's receiving excellent care. But the spokesperson did not provide information about the senator's condition or why the senator was hospitalized. So still a lot of questions that we're still trying to get answers on. The senator, he's 84 years old. He's also previously faced some health issues as well, including earlier this year being hospitalized for more than a week for what was described as him experiencing flu-like symptoms, Savannah.
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Well, America's 250th birthday, as we've been discussing, is less than 3 weeks away. But a new poll from NBC News is finding that the majority of Americans have a bleak outlook on the nation's future ahead of this milestone anniversary. Well, the survey was sponsored by the nonprofit, nonpartisan group More Perfect, and it found that the majority of Americans believe the U.S. has achieved the founders' goals, but has fallen short in living up to certain elements of the democratic experience. Among the 3,000 adults polled, 78% say the American dream is further out of reach compared with the past. Just 5% of those polled say it's actually easier to attain. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now to break down the numbers. John, good morning. So walk us through some of the key findings here from people, just the attitudes towards the country, the president. What do we learn?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. I find it easy to be optimistic when I see you on Monday morning. I know it's going to be a good week. But Americans are feeling pretty rough. You showed some of the figures there about the American dream. I thought what was interesting about that, 78%, of course, saying that it's harder to attain, 5% saying that it's easier to attain. But what's super interesting to me inside those numbers is that that's kind of across the board. You see that among poorer people, among wealthier people, among younger people, among older people, that's really a sentiment that a lot of people share. In addition to that, the sort of windshield versus rear view mirror look, what we're finding is that that most of the people think that the best years of the United States are behind us. 58%, 38% say the best years are ahead of us. And then, of course, in this partisan and political world, we've got the presidential approval ratings, which have been mired for a little while. But right now, President Trump's approval rating, 42%, disapproving 57%.
John, I'll slip you the 20 I owe you for that comment later on. Thanks for that. What factors are driving these numbers, John?
I think one of the big things, Savannah, according to the polling, is institutional frustration. People are angry at their institutions. If you look at how much confidence people have in the U.S. federal government, 8% say a great deal. 52% say very little or no confidence at all. So the federal government kind of taking a beating these days, not just the broader federal government, but also Congress. We know that people joke for a long time about how useless Congress is, dating back to Mark Twain. Right now, 12% of people say a great deal or quite a bit of confidence in Congress. 33% very little, 23% no confidence at all. Take that all together, and it's a pretty frustrated country in terms of how they feel about Congress.
John, we are just 19 days out from the 4th of July, 19 days out from this 250th anniversary. Give us some reason for optimism here. What were silver linings, if any, in this poll?
Slivers of silver linings, Savannah, but one of the big ones is that most people believe that fellow Americans share core values with one another, that there is an opportunity for folks to get together on major issues. So 54% of people said that most Americans share core values with each other. 44% say no, they don't. So, it's barely a majority right now, but if you're looking for those silver linings, I think you can see one there.
Absolutely. All right, John Allen, thank you. Great to have you as always.
Take care.
Well, here in New York, fans are painting the town orange and blue, as I'm wearing today, after the Knicks claimed their first championship win in more than 5 decades. This final buzzer in Game 5 of the NBA Finals late Saturday night turned New York City streets into dance floors as fans, young and old, roared over this historic victory. Seriously, the energy was electric. This elation, this shared joy, it was so real. But as NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro explains, it wasn't all positive because some of these celebrations did lead to dozens of arrests.
A hero's homecoming for the Kings of New York as the Knicks team plane landed greeted by fans. Saturday night, New York City erupted into cheers echoing across all 5 boroughs. Electrified by the Game 5 win and long-awaited NBA title. But the celebrations were marred by violence and destruction. Some people were seen bashing a school bus with a scooter. Several other buses were damaged and one was set on fire, according to authorities who say they were being used to transport soccer fans from a World Cup match. The NYPD reporting more than 60 arrests, at least 10 members of the force injured, and a 17-year-old was shot in the foot after gunfire rang out in Times Square. Police say the teen was taken to a hospital and is in stable condition. The fiery passion set off after a more than 50-year wait for the championship.
We did it, we hung in there, and we put it home, baby, New York! Like, this is insane! Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
Knicks guard Josh Hart holding the game-winning trophy on the flight home. Air traffic control passing along their congrats to the team.
Well, what, about 3 to 4 hours of sleep, but as happy as we could ever be. Congrats.
But little rest for the weary as the city gears up for more celebrations. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani announcing there will be a parade this coming Thursday along the Canyon of Heroes in Lower Manhattan. That will be followed by a ceremony at City Hall where the team will be presented with the keys to the city. Back to you.
All right, Valerie, thank you. That's going to be a big day here in New York. Well, the Knicks aren't the only ones to celebrate a historic championship from over the weekend. In the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes are now Stanley Cup champions for the first time in 20 years. The Canes beat the Vegas Golden Knights 3-0 last night to claim the title in Game 6 of that series. It marks the second time in franchise history the Canes have lifted the iconic cup. And similar to the Knicks, they put together a dominant title run of their own. The Canes swept the first two series and lost only 3 games throughout the playoffs.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.